We are back inside the Octagon. John Gooden with Dan Hardy, delighted to have your company. So the most coveted prize in all of mixed martial arts is on the line at UFC 211. The defending heavyweight champion Stipe Miocic will look to make his second title defence against the last man to beat him, Junior Dos Santos. Back in 2014, they put on an epic war over 5 rounds, and we will get to see this highly anticipated rematch on May 13th.
2 destroyers, 2 outstanding fighters. Junior Dos Santos, Stipe Miocic. It should be a barn burner. Big punches by Stipe and a return by Junior. Another right hand by Stipe. Oh, big left hook by Junior. Boy, these guys are exchanging. What a fight. An incredible 5-round war. Oh! This is everything that you want in a championship fight and a rematch that everybody wants to see.
Yes, Mr. Rogan, it is a fight that everyone wants to see, and it does have everything. Let's get into it. Facts and the stats. Champion, challenger. What are we looking at physically, Dan?
Well, not a lot, really. I mean, everything's pretty much the same apart from the reach. There's a slight reach advantage for Miocic, but what's interesting is that JDS is the one that likes to strike at range, and Miocic is the one that likes to crowd and land short, powerful punches. So I don't even think the reach is going to be much of a difference. The other thing as well is that, I mean, that their records are pretty much the same. They're both physically a very similar size and shape as well. I mean, JDS walks onto the scales around 240 for every one of his UFC fights. He fluctuates a couple of pounds, which means that, you know, he's a very disciplined heavyweight, but he's also comfortable in the physical body that he's got.
Yeah, I think you said last time, Stipe Miocic is in a good proportion for himself as well.
They both are. I mean, they're not like Struvishly tall or Nelsonly heavy, you know what I mean?
Muscled.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're well-balanced heavyweights that are never going to move down a weight class. They're comfortable in this weight class, evenly matched, both very, very tenacious, both love a scrap. And look at these stats as well. I mean, most knockdowns in heavyweight history.
Scary.
The takedown defence is an important one as well, because obviously Miocic, I think, will try and employ a slight wrestling game plan similar to what he did in the first fight, which fell a little short. But we've seen him struggle with wrestlers in the past, even though he's got good takedown defence. So, you know, there's a lot to chew on this one. And obviously, I mean, look at the significant strikes.
Yeah.
Well, just highlight the middle one for me, John.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that.
It's a lot of strikes.
Total strikes ever landed in a UFC fight, not a heavyweight UFC fight, in a UFC fight. This is comparing him with people like Frankie Edgar. Do you know what I mean? Demetrius Johnson. Like 361 strikes against Mark Hunt, but then greatest number of significant strikes landed in a heavyweight fight. The work rate, their output, their aggression. What a great fight. Who doesn't love a heavyweight fight?
And who doesn't love the rerun of this? Because the first fight was epic. I had chills when I heard that this was coming again. Now, before we get into the analysis, you're going to show us something a little bit different, and it's about the respective journeys of both of these fighters.
Yeah, well, as you know, I like to look at everything.
Oh, yes, we know.
Can't miss anything. And the one thing that I do like to look at from time to time is their career trajectory, especially when they've met one time before. It's always interesting to see how they found their way to that first meeting and where they've gone since. So JDS is in blue. As you can see, he joined the UFC in 2008, and he had quite a quick climb up to his first fight with Cain Velasquez, where he won the belt and then defended it, then lost it the second time around. Obviously, #1 contenders fight, and then he's back in a title fight again. So, you know, that was a quick rise, and he's been contending near the top of the division all that time. Obviously, Stipe had a really quick rise, a slight loss there, which was not a major setback to Struve, but then immediately after that, he rocketed up to his fight with JDS. And this, for me, was a #1 contenders fight. I think that the winner thought they were going to move on to a title shot. Stipe was very disappointed after that fight because he didn't get it. So he moves on, he wins the next one, and then he jumps JDS and finds his way into a title fight, which he wins and then defends again. So it's so interesting to see how these two guys have moved their way through the UFC division, and now they meet again a second time with the stakes being so much higher.
Stipe just a little bit more active in recent times as well. Yeah, OK, right. First fight then. Let's do it. Let's recap that epic battle that was a contender for Fight of the Year.
Love that. Look at that stare down. They both mean it. So let's start off. Stipe looked very good to start with. I think he came in with a smart game plan. He's edging forward, he's feinting low, he's feinting high, he's trying to find his way into the clinch. What this tells me is that he watched the 2 losses that JDS had to Cain, and he thought, I can replicate that. I'm a good wrestler, I've got good boxing, I'm going to try and put that kind of pressure on him and slow him down and smother him.
Yeah,
because you see that JDS's work rate drops off when he's in a clinch battle. If you look at most of his fights, he's around 130 strikes. Against Kane, he was around 40, 50 strikes. Wow. He just didn't have the space. But Miocic did well, closing the distance down early on, but then he started to slow down, he started to fatigue. He was doing well, punching his way in and out of the clinch, and when he was finding his way into the clinch, he was landing good damaging shots, but he just couldn't keep his conditioning up. And we know JDS can push. He can work and work and work. And he's got great takedown defense, so every time Miocic is putting effort into taking him down and it's being defended, that's a discouragement. When he does take him down, even here, he lands some good shots, but ultimately before the end of the round, JDS was back on his feet again. So there's that further discouragement there. And then as he's moving forward here, now he's starting to get tired. He squares up to JDS as he's crashing into the fence, and his feet are on a tightrope as he gets hit with a long left hook. Just watch the replay here. Let me just pause this as it lands. Look at that. So I'm going to point two things out. One thing is the line in which he's standing on. You can see his heels are square, and when he's taking a punch to the front, it's like literally like pushing somebody over. Yeah. There's no base behind him. There's nothing to stop him falling over. The other thing as well that I want to point out, let me just get rid of that. The other thing I want to point out is that JDS's arm is pretty much entirely straight. And another thing that you pointed out is the position of his hand as well. Yeah, he's hitting with the knuckles. It's a fully extended punch. And if you look at his lead leg as well, if you look at his left leg here, you can see he's pulling his body weight away from the punch.
Yeah, he's right on his tiptoe there.
It's a check hook. It's just a slap. He wasn't really planning on hitting him to hurt him with that, but he was catching him as he was moving in. The fact that Miocic was off balance and left himself exposed was purely, in my opinion, down to him being tired. That was all it was. This was his energy systems failing him. He came in with a game plan that he couldn't maintain over 5 rounds, like Cain Velasquez did, and it just didn't work out for him. Eventually, JDS slowly edges his way back into the fight, even though they're both taking deep breaths. He edges his way back into the fight, and here, Miocic is laughing at JDS's corner team here, catches him off guard and puts him on his back. And look at that, head back onto the canvas. Yeah. As soon as you see someone go, oh, that's an acceptance of being on the floor. And from this point onwards, JDS slowly finds his way back into the fight, doing exactly what he does all the time, picking single and double shots, landing good, clean punches that upset people's balance and look dramatic because they're falling all over the place when he lands with big power. And right the way to the end of the fight, fighting his way off the fence, lands a knee. And both guys, absolutely exhausted, gave everything they've got. Both thought they'd won the fight. I mean, it was a credit to both of these guys. They must have a lot of respect for each other after this. But to be able to get in there and do it again, after both of these guys have got a lot to take away from, it makes the rematch so much more fascinating for me because they've both got to do better. Yeah,
JDS finishing very strong in that fight.
Very strong.
Great performance by both fighters. But, you know, Miocic, there's a lot of takeaways from that. What does he need to do different? What can he bring to this new challenge against JDS?
OK, well, let's assume that I'm right, and let's assume that he looked at JDS and went, right, I've seen Cain beat him twice with wrestling, so I'm going to do the same thing. If Cain Velasquez is the wrestler with boxing, Miocic is the boxer with wrestling. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and do you think now that he's stamped his authority on the heavyweight division, he's had success since that fight, he's like, I don't really need to copy anyone else's blueprint, I have my own.
Very
and I think possibly. The camp is like, we can do this our way.
Yeah, well, I mean, he did that against Mark Hunt in his next fight, took him down, smothered him, beat him up, managed his energy systems very well over what was almost 5 rounds, but then stopped 3 people in a row after that. So we know he's got punching power, and he now has reassured himself that he's got punching power. So as we see him go into these fights, we see him more confident and more comfortable in a boxing range. He's much better at maintaining the fight in boxing range than he is in a clinch. Look at this work against Overeem, who's one of the best strikers in the division. Every time he switches his stance, Miocic does exactly what he should do to cut him off, to step towards the safe side. And here against Maldonado, he lands a good clean shot, but he rushes forward and then stops, checks himself, and then picks the shot to knock him out. So there's an intelligence in his fighting style when he's on the feet, which I would like to see him transfer into this next fight. Against Roy Nelson, which was a very nice performance when you talk about putting combinations together. You know, he's landing lots of punches in a row. It's okay to follow this momentum, but you just can't get into a brawl with JDS because that's where his power comes into play. But keeping him on the end of his punches, punching through and then following in behind the punches will make it safer for him to transition through the punching range into the clinch.
Right.
And when he does find his way into the clinch as well, you know, he can always threaten with the takedown. That will always keep JDS thinking, am I guarding my head? Am I defending the takedown? It's that constant question. So then when he does establish this boxing range and his opponent is concerned, do I defend the takedown or defend my head? He lands one of these short, powerful right hands.
Yeah, it's like he's got the most power in that mid-range.
I think he contends much better at short range than he does at long range, in comparison to JDS, who's the opposite way around.
Right.
Like, look at this here. Watch how he backs up against Verdum here. And he lands this really clean, short right hand. Now, we've got 2 replays. Watch the first replay, and what I want you to watch is the parry. It's a very short parry. And what's important about this is that it's not a stop. He's not blocking the punch. He parries it across, which allows Verdum to continue moving forward. He's not losing that momentum because he's parrying the punch. Did you see it there? Watch the next replay, you'll see it better. I will slow it right down for you. But what's really nice is that it's a short parry. There it is. It's a short parry and then a very, very short, quick reset for the right hand as Verdum is moving forward. So here we go. Watch the right hand of Miocic. So Verdum's moving forward. Here comes his right hand. He parries it to the side of his head. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Just parry it to the side of his head. But you can see that Verdum's momentum is still moving forward. So what happens now is he parries, he resets, and then as he plants his back foot, he pumps that short right hand through again.
I'm kind of in awe of this, Dan, because that was in front of 45,000 Brazilian fans.
Right.
He was fighting for the title, and you've got the horse on full charge, and this is in a split second. This is championship level quality.
It is.
And I think some people, I think like when we were talking about Nate Diaz in that first fight with Conor McGregor, but this is striking at its finest.
Yes, yeah. And that short range seems to be much better for him than the long range. I think we spoke about it in a previous Inside the Octagon, where if you watch his long-range right hand as he throws it, it's got power, 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 and then there's a drop-off.
Right.
And that's where he seems to lose that power. I don't know whether it's because he's not taking his feet with him or whether it's because he's not twisting fully through with the right hand. I'll ask him next time I see him and keep my guard up as I'm doing it.
Yeah.
But with the short right hand, he's able to generate a lot of power into a very narrow angle, which means that if he's crowding JDS against the fence and landing those short punches, he stands a much better chance of knocking him out than he does if he's at a distance where JDS can throw those big, powerful punches.
With JDS in mind, though, he's got phenomenal power. Do you think, generally speaking, people are planning around that kind of powering threat that he's got?
I think the one thing that you can guarantee when you're fighting JDS is that he's going to try and establish a boxing range and punch with you. He's not too interested in grappling, wrestling. He doesn't even throw a great deal of kicks. But what he does do is he sets up these shots very well. And he's not working with a very broad skill set, to be honest. When most of the work he does are with the basics, the jab cross, the left hook, and the overhand right. That's it. I mean, he throws the uppercut in there, which we're going to see in a second. But for the most part, it's basic boxing. Single, double punches. He's not doing loads of like really long combinations or anything like that. He's picking his single shots. And what's nice is that he identifies these targets very quickly. So in this first fight, this was his debut against Fabricio Verdum. And what I noticed in this was he throws an uppercut here and catches him. He catches him just on the chin, but what we're noticing is that Verdum is level changing. It's almost like he's expecting that rush to come forward and he's going to level change underneath and try and employ his excellent ground game.
Okay.
So as this progresses on, there's a little glint in the eye of JDS here. There's a little smile there, just a half smirk, because he knows the target. He saw Fabricio Verdum level change, so he knows the uppercut's money. So what he's going to do now is he's going to move forward and he's going to start pumping his lead hand. He's going to try and bait Fabricio Verdum to level change. So watch this. You can see he's cocked his right hand. Boom, there it is. Really nice work.
Yeah.
And you watch the replay here. Let's watch the replay. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Because as he moves forward, you can see him. He kind of baits. He's baiting. Fabricio Verdum throws an overhand right and looks to level change. What a perfectly placed punch. UFC debut against one of the legends of the sport, knocked him out. Same thing again with Gilbert Yvel. He works a jab to the body, a right hand to the body, and then comes back up to the head because he's brought his elbows down. He identifies the target. Same thing again with Shane Carwin. Feinting the left hook. He's feinting the left hook to draw the hands away, to create that space down the centre for his right hand. So it's there, look. Bang, he powers the right hand down the centre. Same again. Right on the edge of the chin just there, and Shane Carwin can take a hell of a punch.
Sure.
So he's very smart. Now, see, this is the one everybody remembers, the big overhand right that won him the belt the first time against Kane. I don't think this strike or this knockout does him justice, especially when you watch his first defence against Frank Mir. Now watch this, a beautiful hook to the body. The replay is going to show you this. Look at this. Bang.
Lovely.
Right above the belt line. And what's important in this is how it causes Frank Mir to react. So he digs that shot into the belt line. He's level changed, he's dropped his arm, and he's dug that right into the belt line. Frank Mir, being southpaw, has had to dip his elbow to the side to try and cover this.
Yep.
But it's impossible to cover the whole side of your body. He's open here because he's covering his head. You can see the target's open.
And he's got a massive body.
And he's got
a
a massive
big guy.
body. Yeah, exactly. So then the way this transpires as this continues is that JDS has now created himself an opening. So he's going to look to the body again. Watch the replay. He looks to the body. Now you can see Frank is torn now. He's covering his head, but he also knows that there's a shot coming here. So he's not 100% sold on guarding his head. So as this progresses, it cracks him right on the hand, punches through his hand. You can see the guard's not solid because he's constantly thinking about that body shot. And as he lands it, Frank Mir does take a good shot as well, but you can see it rocked him. It was right in the temple, and then JDS starts to pick his shots, and this is where we see those beautiful boxing combinations come. And he doesn't start unloading like this until he sees that he's hurt his opponent. Against Mark Hunt, again, it was the big overhand right. Beautiful shot. But that wasn't the thing that sealed the deal. It was the spinning head kick. And the spinning head kick was set up slightly earlier in the fight by the back kick. Here we go again. There's the back kick. So watch this. As the back kick lands, you can see the position of Mark Hunt. He's spinning. He knows it's coming. He gets hit with the back kick. He's dropping his elbow.
Yeah.
He catches it on his elbow. But he's aware now, every time Sagano spins, that he's looking for that back kick.
Yep.
He drops the elbow, it exposes the side of his head as a target. So then as the fight progresses, Junior Dos Santos is moving around. Mark Hunt sees the spin again, he tucks his elbow and opens up the side of his head to the spinning
Because
kick.
a big heavyweight guy like that's not going to be able to surely kick you in the head.
I know, you just wouldn't think it, would you? Especially against Mark Hunt, who's one of the best kickboxers in the sport. He's very, very good at identifying his targets. When I do this, he does this. So there's my target. I'm going to set him up for that. And he works very quickly. It doesn't often take him a round to figure out an opponent. He can do it within a couple of minutes. He can see. People react because they know he hits with power.
Yeah.
They see him move and they go, ooh, they're going to cover what's most important to them, usually their head. So as they see him move, they cover their head, he attacks the body. They feel it, it hurts. They see him move, they go, cover my head, he's going to attack my body. Bang, they get knocked out. He's very, very good at programming people and using a very, very small range of skills that he's refined for mixed martial arts.
And with that kind of power, it blasts through sort of half-hearted guards as well. OK, well, this fight has created a lot of interest. We thank you guys for weighing in. Let's take a look at some of the questions. Let's go here. From Robert Penny. Thank you, Robert. Do you think Miocic should engage in grappling to negate the power of JDS, or should he stand and trade? Stand and trade, please. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? But yes, it's an intelligent question.
Yeah. A mixture of the two. A mixture of the two. He's got to mix his martial arts. It's one of my favourite things to say. He has to, because he can't forget that he's a good wrestler, but he also can't forget that his bread and butter is his boxing.
Right.
So when he's fighting, he's got to use his wrestling to hang on his opponents and to crowd them, make it uncomfortable, force them into a phone box. So here against Roy Nelson, you can see him just chopping away at elbows. But every time he got space from Roy Nelson in this fight, he was always threatening the single leg. Now, you've got to think, if you're JDS and you step in with big overhand right power, you've got to think of this lead leg.
Yeah.
If he's level changing and sucking that away, you're going to end up on your back, and then you scramble into your feet again. He did exactly the same thing against Mark Hunt over and over again, actually stepping back into half guard to hold that position. He does it quite a lot. He likes this position where he's sitting on a leg and he's pinning across the body. He likes that forearm pressure, and you pointed out he likes to control the other side as well, doesn't he, with his forearm. And, I mean, he's a big, strong, sizable heavyweight as well. So once he's on top of you, it's a difficult task to move him. Now, in the Overeem fight, first title defence, he came through some adversity in this one. He got knocked down early, but he finds himself here. Now, we spoke about this with Frankie Edgar, I believe it is.
Yes.
Posturing up over his opponents.
That shoulder line.
There it is. That's a better one. Let me just take it back a frame. I'll tell you why this is important and why we're seeing more people use it now in mixed martial arts. Look how overbearing that position is for Miocic. He's leaning all of his weight over the shoulders of Alistair Overeem. And you pointed this out as well. You can even see the ripples in the canvas where he's digging his feet in.
Into it.
I mean, he's really got a good purchase. Active toes, as my wrestling coach would say. He's digging his toes in, he's driving forward, which means that the only thing that's stopping him collapsing down onto Overeem is this knee shield, this double knee guard that Overeem's got. Useful in this situation, but counterproductive in the bigger picture. And I'll tell you why. Overeem feels in this position like he can guard and he can wrist control. But one thing he can't do is move his shoulders, because that transfer of weight driving down through Miocic is driving down into the knees of Overeem and thus pinning his shoulders to the floor. If his shoulders aren't moving, his head's not going to move, which means that no matter what he's doing with the wrists or the guard, you can pick those shots.
And that's bad for mixed martial arts and grappling
exactly.
as well.
It's not a good position to be in ever. But I mean, in this position in a grappling tournament, you can attack legs, you can scramble. It's very risky in mixed martial arts, particularly when you've got a big guy on top of you like this. So he just leans over, he's overbearing, he lands big, powerful shots, and short, powerful shots as well. Not big wind-up, he's not dropping bombs, he's bang, bang, very short, succinct shots, economical, very good for a 5-round fight, you know? Not expending so much energy, not winging big, powerful punches over the top, picking his shots, throwing nice, short, tight punches, and doing it a very smart way.
Both of these guys are developing. If you listen to some of the podcasts that they've been on and read some of the writing around them, they're always looking to evolve, and I love that.
Yeah.
JDS has joined up with American Top Team, a little bit more settled there now. He's on the mat with, I think, probably more high-level heavyweights than he's ever experienced before. He was polished before, but I'm excited to see what this new version is.
Well, this is the thing. Whenever somebody goes to American Top Team, you know that they're going to add new things to their game. It may take them a fight or two to really settle in and find the coaches that they vibe with.
But now he's at that point.
Now he's there. And that's what makes it interesting, because not only is he a former UFC heavyweight champion, he's been in the UFC since 2008, which is a long time. I mean, you know, he's been around for a while. He's also still very young. He's got a lot of time to develop. You know, he's not, I mean, he's had tough fights, but he's not been really beaten up and damaged a lot. So he's still got a lot of room to develop. And
It looks like he's been beaten up and damaged, but he's got one of those faces.
He does, yeah, he does cut a lot, which looked really good for Miocic in the first fight after the first 2 rounds, because he was bloody. But what's nice is that because JDS knows that he cuts easily, it doesn't discourage him in the fight.
Right.
So in first round, he's already a bloody mess, and he's still marching forward like, yeah, we're in a fight, let's go.
That's just the day at the office.
That's his fight. That's the way it goes. So, you know, we know he's got great takedown defense, and this is something that we've seen over and over again. And what he does, he refuses absolutely to go to the floor, which means that first takedown effort that his opponents give 100% for fails, which means that they don't have 100% for the next attempt, which means that it gets easier and easier and easier for him to defend these takedowns. Watch against Kane. So watch this. First takedown defended, back on his feet, immediately picked up, put on the floor again. He scrambles, he rolls, he pushes, he creates space. Now Kane's got to get back up again. Then the following takedowns were far easier to defend. Limp legs out. Doesn't even use his hands on this one, I don't think. Look at that, just get out of the way. Almost play Matador with him. You know, it's much easier for him because his opponent's discouraged, so they're not giving 100%. They're tired, they've failed a couple of times. And he's also got takedowns of his own. This is something that we can't forget. Yeah. If Miocic thinks this is going to be a boxing match with the wrestling dictated by him alone, he may be caught unawares with that, because he's going to start marching forward. And if he starts to get overconfident, if he hurts JDS and he starts to reel backwards, that level change is always there. And if you think he's working at American Top Team with good wrestlers, bigger athletes, more heavyweights, he's used to manhandling these guys around. He might have more confidence in that game now. Yeah, okay, back to Twitter. And we are going to go here. So, will JDS's past wars be a major factor combining with Stipe's boxing and recent run of beautiful KOs? I sort of alluded to it before, where he wears the damage quite a lot, but I'm not sure whether I subscribe to that. Well, the thing is, he does cut easily. He does show wear on his face, but he doesn't take a lot of massive punches. You know, a lot of the time when he's taking these shots, the cuts and the damage that was done by Kane were short, close-range shots where he's being tapped and clipped and swollen, and you know what I mean? They're not big, powerful shots that are really causing injuries to him. Yeah. So it's just superficial damage. So it's not really slowed him down necessarily in his career so far. The other thing as well is his last fight, his 5-round fight against Ben Rothwell, was possibly the best version of him we've seen. I mean, he was disciplined, he was sharp. We sat and watched this live, and it was a fantastic performance. Very smart. Very, very, very disciplined, very guarded, very safe against a guy that's a dangerous power puncher with a good submissions game. Yes. He didn't really take many chances, but he clearly won the fight, clearly beat him up. Comfortably over 5 rounds as well. This is a beautiful Sparta kick as well. But you've got to think that this was a A 5-round fight over another top heavyweight contender, not a scratch on his face. I mean, look at that. It was a great fight. 25 minutes with one of the biggest punches in the division, and he didn't even look troubled at all. That's got to give him a lot of confidence coming into this fight with Miocic.
Yeah, I saw him after that fight, had a chat with him. The whole team were elated.
Yeah.
So very excited to see what he brings into this one. Final question for you on Stipe's conditioning. I think going back to that first fight, really, and since then he's not been in the octagon that long.
Yeah, well, for me, and I'm sure for Stipe and his team, that was the biggest takeaway of that fight, because everything else seemed to be going according to plan.
Yeah.
You know, he was scrambling, he was pushing, he was landing good shots, he was punching in and out of the clinch. He looked good. But when he started to slow down is when he became susceptible to JDS's game. So if I was in his corner, I'd be like, look, we need to be hitting the road, we need to be pushing and pushing. And then he goes into his next fight against Mark Hunt and he puts on almost 5 rounds of great one-sided performance. I mean, he outclassed him in every range. It was a really nice economical performance. He didn't expend any excess energy he didn't need to. He didn't power him with every single punch as we saw in the early stats.
Yeah.
360-something punches.
Yeah.
A lot of them were short-range stuff, so he could continue that control of Mark Hunt. So that may have almost been to validate his own conditioning for himself.
Right, he's kind of gone all the other way with it. He's
Exactly.
like, I've got it now, but now I'm going to go back to knocking people out like Alistair Overeem.
And he's done it 3 times in a row, and he knows he's got that confidence in his hands. So,
yeah.
What a great... I mean, I just love a rematch, especially a heavyweight one, and especially one where they're so evenly matched, and it really is a coin toss. It really could go either way. Beautiful.
Cannot wait for that fight. It's going to be an absolute scorcher. But from us here at Inside the Octagon, we have another instalment coming your way for UFC 211 because there is another title fight that will be contested as Joanna Jędrzejczyk looks to make her 5th title defence. The second only female fighter to wear the UFC's strawweight belt faces her toughest challenge to date against a uniquely powerful contender in Jessica Andrade. Since joining the division, the Brazilian has blazed her way into title contention and now has a date with destiny against the undisputed queen at 115. We look forward to you guys joining us for that one. As for this show, thank you very much for tuning in. Thanks again for getting involved on the socials. Keep it all going using the hashtag InsideTheOctagon, and we'll see you soon.